This discussion involves wealth and gambling. I bring up the idea of gambling again because so many people are convinced that gambling and savings are the same thing. There couldn't be anything more the reverse of that. When people understand that, then they begin to produce a solid foundation for their finances. I've mentioned before, investing, that's things where you have great control. Investments like work, like a farm, like a rent house, something of that sort, where a person has control of business. Those are generally the foundation for wealth. Savings is where you take your excess funds and you set them aside where they're available for opportunities and emergencies. Money attracts opportunities. Money allows people to recognize opportunities. The third is gambling. And because gambling is so prevalent in this country, I'm also going to mention that in some ways in this discussion as well. True wealth means not spending everything we make. True wealth, and I could look at a person's balance sheet and tell you right away how likely it is they'll be successful, because they're accumulating assets. Assets are things that produce or can produce income. Liabilities are things we may need: houses, cars, food, clothing, shelter. Those things they eat up income. They cost money. Now, they may be necessary, we have to have them, but we have to be careful. Whenever possible, when we spend our money, we want to spend it on assets. Those assets will then increase our income and give us more security. Not on liabilities, because every liability we add to a brand new car, $50,000, whatever it would be, adds to the debt load and takes away our opportunities. True wealth really is the ability not to have to worry about cash flow. If a person doesn't have to work, but the money will keep coming in and it's plenty for their needs and wants, that's true wealth. The person doesn't have to be a billionaire to reach that level. Again, the difference between wealth and poverty is output and retention. If we make a certain amount of money from various sources and we save a significant amount of that, that's building true wealth. If we spend more than we make, which is common, that leads inevitably to poverty. Ask yourself, will this activity that I'm doing, will this investment I'm doing, will this business I want to start, will this career I want to get into pay? I have a wonderful young couple who are clients. They spend a lot of money to get master's degrees so that in their teaching jobs they could get an increase in pay. Their increase was $100 a month each. The interest on the money they spent as a loan is more than $100 a month each. So with the increase in their income, it's not enough to pay the interest on their debt that they incurred to get the increase. So we have to look carefully before we make a decision whether it's going to put us in a good position or not. Another thing, there's a saying, most people who are rich may be rich by chance, but if so, they'll probably become poor the same way. This is not a matter of luck. This is not a matter of good fortune. This is a matter of thinking things through, making intelligent choices in line with our goals. To me, that's critically important. I had a fellow who didn't become a client because after I made my suggestions to him, he said, "Bill, that's not getting me ahead fast enough." What he didn't recognize is I was trying to give him a solid foundation for his finances and to give him back control of his money so that he could take advantage of opportunities. It was only a first step. He wanted to put the money into something that would zoom like crazy. And the two things he told me he was going to do are both losers for his situation. So I was never able to communicate with him the fact he had to have a foundation. In Manhattan, where they build those tall buildings like the Empire State Building, they dig 6 or 7 stories down in solid granite. Because if they didn't have that kind of a depth of foundation, the first time the wind blew on one of those big buildings, it would blow right over. people talk about diversification. That's so badly misunderstood. Diversification is a way to throw your money in several different directions, like just scattering your seed all over the countryside, hoping that something will grow, and to limit risk. So if you invest in 10 different things, hopefully if 5 of them go down, the other 5 go up, you won't lose anything. That's not the way to grow and to make money. It's to carefully choose the things that are likely to work and then concentrate on them and watch your investments in those things. Again, businesses, things of that sort. We could, if you ever want to call, you certainly can call me. We can talk about those kinds of things. But I think you see the point. Putting money into 10 things where half of them probably go down, half of them probably go up, it doesn't make a bit of sense to me. That's called diversification. It isn't. People say, well, I have 10 different kinds of stocks. They're all stocks. There can be a small amount of diversification because one kind of stock might be financial, the other might be having to deal with food, another might have to do with fuel or something. There's some diversification, but stocks tend to go up and down together. It's very difficult to find a stock that'll buck a trend in one direction or the other. That's not real diversification. Diversification can be a mixture between stocks and bonds, which are one kind of an asset, real estate, business, gold and silver. These are all things that have differing aspects and often operate and grow or decline at different times from one another. So again, thoughtfully, if a person wants to diversify, that's a more intelligent way to diversify, not to put your eggs all in one basket into different products of the same kind and hope to do well. Again, savings are critical. I had one person fearful, I don't know whether he'll become a client or not, but when I suggested he have a safe place to put his money, he said, oh, I can't do that. That's putting my money all in one place. No, money has to have a safe place for storage until it's needed. And it's nice, of course, to have a decent return while the money is there, but it needs to be fully available without cost, without risk, without penalties. And he just didn't understand. You have to start somewhere. Don't make that mistake. Just if you have a couple of dollars and just throw it into some gamble, the chances are it will happen badly. I have one client, potential client I'm talking to now. He has 2 shares of a very good stock that's very steady and produces a decent dividend. Well, those 2 shares are worth about $200 total. I don't care how well that stock does. He's not going to have anything. Suppose it quadruples. Well, he'd have $800. That's not going to have any big effect on his future. People don't understand those kinds of issues. We don't want to just toss seeds around to see which ones grow. We want to carefully plant the appropriate seeds in the appropriate places at the appropriate times. And one of the reasons my clients call me a mentor is I don't tell them what to do. I try to help them understand at the appropriate time what things they can do will keep them safe, reduce or eliminate their risk, and give them options that they would never dreamed of. I have clients calling me quite frequently now with the money they've been able to accumulate with my suggestions. They're buying businesses, they're buying buildings, they're buying all kinds of things that are productive, and they have control of them, and they're succeeding. Where prior they didn't have the choice because they didn't have the savings they needed from which to build this foundation. I hope this series has been helpful to you so far. The previous month, was the beginning of this basically unified discussion. You may want to go back to it. In fact, I would certainly recommend that you go back all the way to the first one and listen and watch them in sequence, because there's a method to the way that I've been doing this, trying to build one concept on the other. I hope you find this information was helpful, and I certainly would encourage you to give me a call. If you're a client, I already know your situation, so if you have thoughts you want to share, I can give you thoughtful answers. If you're not yet a client, we could certainly do a little brainstorm, and after my understanding your situation, I could make suggestions that would be worthwhile. I won't tell you what to do, but when you have more choices than you know about now, and when you have an understanding of the strengths and the weaknesses of each of those choices, that puts tremendous control and power in your hands where it ought to be. Nobody should be telling you how to handle your money, just you. I hope that was a help. Thank you.